Hello and welcome, everybody, to the 64th episode of the Made in Dreams podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mighty Vicious, aka Jean-Luc Picard, back and comfortable in my captain's chair, engaged.
Right.
As always, I'm joined by my partner in, I would say in crime, but in justice. The white,
Injustice.
the white knight himself, Jamie James Alcide.
The White Knight. I love that. I'm quite pleased with this week's one, the White Knight.
You were having a rough go of it last week. You back in the game, man? You
I'm
good?
feeling a lot better. I'm still on the edge, but I'm feeling so much better than last week. So yeah.
All right, good. Well, folks, prepare for me to get sidetracked all over the place with a bunch of nerdgasms for the herdgasm. Today we are joined by the Rider of Lightning himself at Dreams Unleashed. And introduce yourself. Tell them who you are.
All right. I'm Kevin. Well, hey, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. I'm excited to join you guys today. Looking forward to the show.
Fantastic. Well, Kev, look, for those that don't know, we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff here, and I'm going to be throwing out some links today in chat, so hopefully you catch them. But let's go ahead and get this show on the road. Kev, tell us about yourself and, your journey to dreams.
Yeah, sure. So I've been a lover of video games for most of my life, but I was kind of focused on my career for a while. I was working for a mental health hospital prior to everything, getting into dreams and everything, and I got let go just before the pandemic, basically. For restructuring reasons. There's nothing performance related or anything like that. But I was also having some health struggles around that time as well. I had probably about 5 years ago, I had a pretty bad concussion and whiplash injury from playing basketball. And it's something that still kind of impacts me to this day. And prior to that, a few months prior to being let go, I had kind of a setback on that front. So I was having some struggles, and I had to kind of gradually work my way back into full-time hours at work and everything. So when I was let go, and then the pandemic started breaking out, it was just like, okay, I just need a mental break from what I'm doing with my work. I was a workplace wellness specialist, and so I did a lot of. I actually did superhero workshops there for staff and employees, which is something that I created. So it's basically kind of taking a superhero theme towards wellness concepts. So each workshop would be about a different heroic characteristic. So we have resilience and mindfulness and, compassion and fear training, things like that. Prior to working with the mental health hospital that I was at, I also did these workshops with kids in schools for a while. And so that's kind of where I created them. And then I started to adapt them more for adult audiences, in that job. But I was also involved with wellness programming in all different sorts of ways. I was running a lunchtime basketball program for staff, and I did gratitude workshops and, a lot of mental and emotional health sort of specialization there. And so, yeah, when I was let go from that position, it was just kind of like time to take a mental break from all that. And I start up a new hobby. And just prior to that, I was watching a lot of Elka Gaming's progress with the Avatar game, because I'm a huge Avatar fan. That's probably my biggest fandom. I love that stuff, and that really kind of inspired me, like seeing all the progress that he was making and all the following that he was getting with that game, and just kind of following as he was creating and stuff like that. And I was just like, this looks really interesting. Like maybe I could try that. So that's kind of what got me into dreams in the first place, and it just kind of started out. I didn't really have any ambitions with it. I just thought it would be a cool thing, a cool new hobby to take up and just try to learn how to create some things. Started out small, watching a lot of tutorials and stuff. I had a lot of time on my hands at that time, so I was really able to dive deep into it, watching tutorials and everything. And then I just started thinking about what's something that I wanted to creatively sink my teeth into to try to create. And probably the first thing I would have done would have been Avatar, but Alka already had that covered. I wasn't going to make anything as good as him. So I was like, okay, well, how about the Flash? That'd be a cool one. There's never been a Flash game. And, that's another show that's been inspiring for me in my life. At least the first couple seasons of the CW show were really inspiring for me. After that, the last few seasons, not so much. It's pretty hard to watch nowadays, but the first couple seasons hit hard for me. And, so I just started coming up with ideas in my head of what that would look like. What would a Flash game look like? And started thinking about my video game brain was like, how can I translate this into a good game or something that's kind of unique or different than what's been done before? And that's probably where like the Spider-Man PlayStation games had a lot of influence for me, just in terms of how I could visualize that sort of playing out. And so I just started working on programming, just seeing if I could figure out, okay, if I had a controller, what would each button on the controller, what ability would it control, and how can I create some of those effects? And so I didn't really plan on making a game of it or anything. I just thought maybe I'd make like one battle, or, just try testing out abilities. And, and it just continually grew from there. I didn't really expect it to grow into anything. I didn't have any experience with any type of game design, game programming, animation, like none of that. Like even art, like watch me to try to draw something, it's real ugly. So I didn't really, expect anything of it or expect anyone to be interested in it. And just the more I continued to build that idea in my head, was just something that I was doing for fun for myself. And then I released, there was a mini game that I built where it was kind of recreating a scene from the show where the Flash was, facing against a tsunami, basically, where there's a tsunami heading to the city and he has to run back and forth to try to build a wind wall. And he ends up running through time. And that's the first time that he learns to do that. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. But, so I tried to make a mini game that recreated that concept. And then I put it on YouTube, mainly just to show it to like my best buddy and like a couple friends. Didn't really expect anything of it. But then it just like a few months afterwards, it just randomly blew up on YouTube, where it had like, now it's at the point where it's like over 200,000 views. And I'm just like,
Wow.
I don't know how that happened. I wasn't even like marketing really. But my game got a lot more exposure after that. So I was like, okay, I guess I gotta like keep trying to build it. And had different ideas in my head of different things that I wanted to try and build. And so that's kind of, it grew from there. Once there was that interest, I was like, okay, I might as well, keep trying to move forward with it. And now, people are still interested in it, and there's still things that I want to build. So I still work away at it. I mean, I don't have the time to devote to it anymore that I did in the early days, because I'm back trying to, work towards that career. I still love that career. I'm still, committed to it. So it's more of like a hobby for me now. And that was kind of a struggle too, is finding that once it stopped becoming that pandemic hobby and had to fit it back into my regular life, that was a challenge, trying to figure out where the space was for it. Because like I would work on it in the evenings, but I find it's like too creative for me, because I start getting in that zone and it's really hard to like step away from it once I start creating something. And then I end up staying up really late, and then I'm just like, oh man, I'm a mess for like a few days after that. So it's, finding those times in my life to sort of fit it in. But I'm finding a bit of a groove now too. So yeah, I'm feeling comfortable with it. And actually, the first thing I did in Dreams before I even made the Flash project is I made a birthday card for my young goddaughter. She's really into the whole Disney princess thing, so I made like a forest that was kind of inspired by Tangled, and I made that into a birthday card where it's like you get to the end of the forest and there's Rapunzel's tower, and there's like a birthday greeting that goes with fireworks and stuff like that. I just like uploaded it to YouTube privately and sent to them for her birthday. So like one of the first things that I did with it, and then I mainly started focusing on the Flash project from there. But yeah, it's pretty versatile. So I'm excited about the new skills that I've picked up from it along the way. So that's pretty much what brought me here.
So I guess let's go back to the workshops, because I like how you have kind of like a Mr. Glass origin to like how this all works. But like I've always seen superheroes like as the modern day pantheon of a global community instead of just one culture, kind of like a symbol for us to be at our best, in lieu of not having those myths or legends or stories to like follow on like cultures in the past. But like it's like finding those goals like that, I guess, that we don't necessarily have in like the real world zeitgeist anymore of like peers and leaders. So I really love the setup of like the workshop and the idea of it. And have you like reached out to like Marvel or DC for like sponsorship or anything? Like
No,
that sounds like something they'd be really into.
I thought about it. I mean, maybe I should. That's a good point. I mean, my original dream and my original vision was to like tell Stan Lee about it and like get him involved with it in some way, because I think that he's, you know, a big inspiration with all that stuff. And I did actually get to meet him at a fan expo here in Toronto. I'm based in Toronto. But it was pretty much like an assembly line where, you know, where you pay for like a photo op, but it's like, it's an assembly line. You're in there for like 2 seconds. He literally just said like, good job or something like that. That's pretty much the only words that we got into each other.
I was talking.
I had a chance to get into with him, but
I was talking about that last week, actually.
Yeah,
Like I've
I
talked
was.
about multiple times. Like I don't like cons. Like I don't like the idea of cons. Like cons are kind of like I feel like you can have an appreciation of someone's work and you may like enjoy the con, but it almost turns into almost like this idolization. And it's like I want to have a, you know, I want to sit down and have a cup of hot cocoa with Stan Lee, or I would have wanted to, you know, have a talk over a sip, you know, but you know that whole, like you said, ushering in. Like I went through it because a friend of mine wanted her child to go to the Comic-Con we had here, and I ended up talking. Of course, I would blank right now, but Optimus Prime. I like meeting with him. I've always wanted to, and like, you know, it's just that thing where it's like you're in and out, but. At least you got to meet Stan before he went, because yeah, that one's still hard for me personally.
yeah, me too. Like it felt like he was like a family member when he passed or something like that. Like I don't know, it's just like he had that sort of influence. But yeah, I can totally relate to what you're saying there. Like something about paying to like meet someone, it's just like really weird to me. I did like, fortunately, I have got to meet a couple people at cons. Stephen Amell, obviously a Green Arrow, and Zachary Levi as well, who plays Shazam, but I more love him from Chuck. I don't know if anyone's a deep cut.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's into that, but I love that show. So I got to have like a little bit more time with them, where I got to tell them a little bit about the workshops and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it didn't lead to a hot cocoa afterwards or anything.
No. Believe me, that's the thing. And also when they're at cons, like even the people who do it all the time and they, you know, they actually enjoy loving, you know, to be with the fans and stuff, it's an ordeal for them. Like they go after, like they disappear after, and they're just like, like I'm all right. I made it through another one, guys. But yeah. So I mean, I just think it's a great idea, and I think you should, you know, as this grows, probably with the, you know, with the DC affiliation with the Flash, like it would be something to kind of hopefully get in there and, you know, have a talk with them, because it just seems like the type of project that they would do, because for huge companies like this, it doesn't cost them really anything. It just gives them good publicity. So
Yeah.
just something to think about. But on to the dream stuff, I guess. But because I'm trying not to go off.
Segue all the way into DC and Marvel and nothing about dreams otherwise. It's so easy to do.
I'm gonna save it for later. Because I like how you said, like, you didn't really have any experience working in like game development or really any of dreams. So like I feel a kinship there, because yeah, like I didn't either. Like I can draw with, you know, paper and pencil, but I had no like really 3D or like working in a 3D environment. I had none of that going for me, and it's rough. It can be quite rough. But yeah, so I guess working with the Flash and being modeled after what was the Arrowverse, or I don't know if it still is considered the Arrowverse on CW, but like what made you choose that version of the Flash to go with?
Yeah, I think that, like I said, Avatar was probably my first choice, but then after that, it stuck with me. And I think, you know, it's one of those other shows that's really had a lasting impact on me. As I mentioned, the first couple seasons especially really influenced me. So I think at the start, really that connection was just feeling similarity to Grant Gustin's version of Barry. Like he's a more sort of empathetic character than we see of a lot of. He's very empathic, and he's very like, he has this like joyful sort of personality about him despite going through some really dark stuff. So there's something about him that I just really related to. So that was the first part of it, is just feeling that connection to the character, and seeing some of the hard things that he's gone through and being able to relate that to my life. But I think even as the show sort of evolved, the thing that even really stuck with me more is just kind of that. I mean, the definitive Flash story is like the Flashpoint story, where it's the whole concept of like being able to run so fast that you can run back in time and potentially change things that have happened in the past. And I love that whole story, that whole concept. I know the TV show isn't the first one that's done that. Obviously, there's source material before that, but I thought that that was my main exposure to the character. And I love that concept of him sort of learning that humbleness and that humility of like, we all think that we know how things should be, and the way that obviously he wants to change things for the way that he thinks that they should be, but we see that there are other consequences to that kind of thing. So for me, especially when I was dealing with like the concussion and the injury recovery, like it's something that's had a lasting impact on me, where it's like, I still have to be careful with how much I lift, and like certain movements that I do, I have to be careful, and my diet's become really restrictive. Like I pretty much had to give up like gluten and dairy and sugar and all those things because of the inflammation effect on me. And so there's a lot of in it. For a while I developed sound sensitivity and noise sensitivity and things like that. So even with the game development, there's times where I need to take a break from it, because it's funny, I picked the game where there's like fast movement and bright light and all that sort of stuff, which is like probably not the best for it at times. So there's some times where it feels a little bit overwhelming, and even then I need to take a break from it. But so coming to acceptance with that change in my life, and the new sort of conditions that I find myself in, and the new restrictions that I have, like coming to some sort of peace and acceptance with that has been, a struggle, and that's been the challenge for me. It's been a focus for me, and I think the Flash really helped me with that, because it's like seeing that, okay, if I could go back in time and change that event so that it never happens, it's like, what else would be changed as a result of that? Would my friends be in a worse place, or like, would I not meet the same people after, or would I not have the same job opportunities? Would I not have facilitated the workshops, and like all those kind of things? So it's like, it's coming to that humility of understanding that things happen for a reason, and just trying to come to some level of acceptance with the way things are, and just kind of continue to move forward. So that was a really big inspiration for me, I think. And I think that just the first couple seasons overall, I thought were really, really well done with that show. And so this game really kind of a love letter to those things that did inspire me. I know there's a lot of things I'm not fond of the way that the show is currently, but I just try to stay focused on the things that did inspire me, and just kind of make this as a tribute to that inspiration.
And so how did you deal with the speed? Like, what was your idea behind? Like
that was tricky. That was the biggest challenge for me, and that was something that I kind of looked forward to. But it took a lot of experimenting, because it's like you either go too fast or too slow, and finding what was right for me, because I had to do a lot of like play testing and stuff like that. And I think the other reason why I never initially, like, I probably would have never even wanted this to be like, to have so much viewership and like exposure and that kind of thing, because I always assumed the internet was like a really toxic place for like to put yourself in public, like for something to go viral or whatever. It's like, I don't even know if I want that, honestly. So when that first viral video did go viral with this new thing, that was like the main. Everything's been really positive, actually. The community that's developed for this game has been really positive. People really, love and appreciate it. But the main criticisms that I saw with the first video that had the most exposure were people saying your Flash is too slow. But that was kind of by design, essentially, the way that the speed goes. Because if you go too fast, I just find that it's kind of dizzying. First of all, that's my first priority, is to make sure that people who are playing it are not going to be prone to getting like nausea or dizziness or whatever. And so if it's causing that for me, then that's my first signal that it's like, it might be too much. finding that balance with gameplay, because I didn't want him to be so fast that it would compromise the gameplay to the point where it's like you can't really control where he's going or what he's doing. Or you're just running into things
Exactly.
constantly because you're just going too fast. And the other problem with Dreams is you have limitations with the thermo. It's like you can only, I mean, I know that there are certain techniques with optimization to make these really huge worlds, but it's like the faster he goes, the bigger you need to make that world, because he's going to
Yeah.
Yeah.
one end to the other real quick. So that was the other thing to consider too. So it was just a lot of play testing. But I tried to make it work both ways. So he has like, I programmed that he does have like a supersonic speed option that you can go to in the game, so that he does go like crazy fast when you do that. And you could pretty much spam it as much as you want to. So if there are people who are just like, I need to go really fast, then they can do that if they want to. But more of the regular running speed. And what I actually decided to program was for him to gradually get faster, like the longer he's running. So when you first start running, you're not as fast, and the longer you're running for, he gradually picks up speed as well until you get to a certain point. Anyway,
Yeah.
so that was kind of the next evolution of it. But then you've also got flash time, where you make everything slow down. So that sort of helps, especially when you're trying to go around turns and stuff like that. So if you're going pretty fast, you can activate the flash time so that you're going much, time slows down essentially, so you can have more control over the character. So you're kind of weaving in and out of that fast and slow. So that's kind of, just trying to find that balance. So I'm pretty happy with where it's at now. I'm sure that there's always going to be people who like want things a little bit different, but I think that this is a pretty good balance. And that's the beauty of Dreams, is a lot of my stuff is remixable too. So if people, want to do something else with it, they can make those adjustments too, for themselves. So, and especially the other thing is combat too, because it's not just running through the city. You also want to have it work with, combat situations and stuff like that too. So, I'm pretty happy with where it's settled into right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, go ahead if you
No,
want.
just to talk on your mechanics, I absolutely love how you've done the one where he picks up the bullets when they're being shot. Like, it's just done so well. It just looks perfect, and it fits everything that you're doing with Flash. Like, they're really, really clever the way that you've designed these mechanics. It's like you can really tell that you're a fan of the show and you really love the character, because the way that the mechanics have been done are just one to one. They're really, really well thought out.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I love the most about the game, honestly, is the flash time stuff. Like, when everything, as much as it's like everyone thinks of the flash is being like super fast, I love the stuff when you're slowing everything down. Maybe that's just kind of my personality
Yeah,
too.
no, I like
That's
that.
the stuff
Yeah.
I love working with, because then you could get really creative. You could change the sounds in the environment, and you could make the leaves like sway differently, and the way that the flash can kind of weave into different speeds and stuff like that. That's like the most fun thing, the most room for creativity I find, because there's not a lot of games that work with that mechanic. Like, there's a lot of games that have the slowdown feature, but it's usually like when you're aiming at something, and it's like you're not really moving through it. You're just kind of like pausing things pretty much. So I really it's a lot of fun to work with that.
See, I've always thought, and in response to like the people that are like, he's too slow. It's like, I've always felt that games, and I'm sorry if someone gets upset about me talking about Sonic like this, but I've always thought that's why Sonic had mediocre games outside of the original 8-bit, is because people think of speed as in gotta go fast. But if you're moving super fast, everything slows down. And so I've always thought that, like, what I loved about it is, like, I thought Flash should be like a driving game, where it's like when you adjust the acceleration, things slow down around you, like you have, and and it's just kind of like, it gives you so much, like you said, opportunity to really play around with speed itself as the mechanic of puzzle solving, and like being able to expand upon just punch stuff. And or run into stuff really fast, like so. I love all the stuff you've done. I love the fact that you got reverse going on around here, reverse Flash. I love it. Once again, I need to not go off the script just yet. We'll get to it. We'll get to it later. But what would you say has been the hardest part of developing this?
That's a good question. I think, like, honestly, I'm just learning as I go, pretty much. Like, as you kind of mentioned, it's like having those different mechanics for different things to do, because I don't want to just be doing programming the same thing all the time, like where it's like the boss is the same thing every time, where you're essentially just slowing things down and punching each other or like whatever. It's like each sort of encounter I want to build and develop is going to challenge the Flash to use his powers in a different way, to win essentially. And because that's one of the really cool things about the character is his powers are so versatile. Like he can use his speed in so many different ways. And so that's like the thing that gets me, that I love about it, is it's like a different challenge every time, where it's like, okay, how can I implement that mechanic in that way? So that's kind of what gets me going. That's what I love about it. But it's also challenging because it's every time it's something new, it's something different. It's like, how do I even do that? I don't know. So it's like a lot of times, sometimes it goes smoothly, but other times it's like I have no idea how to implement this mechanic. Or there's even with Dreams itself, sometimes it's like I don't understand. Like this logic should be working, but it's not, and I don't know why.
That's logic in general.
Yeah.
And,
But
that's sorry, go ahead.
No, I was very impressed that you were able to, figure out a way to do like his phase through ability, where it's like the phasing through walls. Like I just, the idea of that, I loved it. I'm sure that was like, that could have either been like the hardest thing or the easiest thing, depending on how you did it. Because it's all about the quote unquote cheats. It's like, how can I make this as easy as possible without ending up in a freaking hospital, like losing my brain with all these wires. But I really love the way you did that. You've implemented a lot of the Flash into it. I mean, I know on Twitter I was like, "Yo, man, after you're done with the game, you should take that model. We can do a movie." And you were like, "I don't know about I don't know about a movie." This is just the way my brain is.
Like that's and a lot of people have been asking about story, and I don't have plans for the story right now, but you never know, that could change in the future. So we could like weave those things together if we want to work on that. That's maybe something. I don't want to promise anything because I don't know.
No, hey, time
to go for, but
time is always against us.
At that point, we'll be in touch. You can we can work together on that for sure.
Oh. Don't tease me.
I have a couple ideas in my head for like different story things.
Okay, because I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm gonna tell you a story.
You're gonna have a script in a week.
This is it. This is it. I'm gonna tell you a story, and it's very specific to this. Back before Google started doing all their community things, they like their attempt at social media through Gmail and all that stuff. They had Google Groups. And it was just groups that you could invite certain people to, and everybody could talk on a board, the usual. Well, I had one called the Lightning Man. And the whole idea was I want to update the Flash's, origin, bring it into, at this time it's like 2002. And I was like, I want to update it. And so I put out the basics of how I wanted it to be structured. We were like me and one of my other friends, Deadpool, for those who have been around this channel long enough. And literally I was like, my first thing is I want to redo his origin. What I would like to do is to tie it to the Hadron Collider. And then they did it. In the show, years and years later, they did it for the CW show, and I am also a fan of the CW. It's one of the only CW shows that I can watch even now, even though it's kind of gone. It's it still could be good, but I find myself rolling my eyes a lot. let me just put it that way. Joe West, I just see him as like my uncle. Like he's like everybody's uncle. I love him. But but I always found it funny because that's why I introduced you as the Lightning Man, because that backstory of I've always wanted to do, like, as I've told the podcast before, if I could direct anything from DC, it would be either the Flash or the Question. And so that's all I'm gonna say. We'll get back to Dreams now. I'm holding out for later.
He's doing so well. Like, you don't understand how much he loves the Flash. Like, he's doing really well to keep this on topic with Dreams.
Oh my God, the question is just answering Ninja in chat. The question is my boy. Like it really became like like depending on how I'm feeling, either the Flash or the question are my favorite. It just depends on which one I'm more hype about at the moment. The question is such an untapped. I mean, the fact that they don't have a show for him, and the fact that they refuse to not make shows for CW and make some serious art. Anyway, the point is, let's get back to let's get back to Dreams. So, like, do you have anything else cooking that you haven't shown people yet? Like something else that you? Oh my God. Sorry, just saw chat. I'm not gonna be distracted.
No, don't bite. Don't bite.
No. So do you it gets so hard. Do you somebody quote, it gets so hard 2022, Mighty Vicious. And so yeah, like do you have anything else cooking that you've kind of been like as you've worked on this and then been like I got to take a break from that? Have you been looking at anything else?
Outside of the Flash project?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, so recently I did a couple videos. So my other like superhero workshop sort of social media, I did a couple videos before Spider-Man No Way Home came out. And so I did a couple videos about how Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's version of Spider-Man have inspired me in my life and sort of, what I took from some of those movies and how they influenced me in my life. And so I made a couple videos about that sort of before No Way Home. And so that kind of got me thinking because I actually did a workshop. It was supposed to be a kids like mindfulness workshop with another group, but there were no kids that showed up. It was an online workshop, but two parents showed up of like a foster family of 4 kids in Texas, and they were really interested in the concept and the superhero, aspect of and how I related all the mindfulness tools to that sort of thing. So they were really interested. Like, do you have a book or a subscription or anything that we could subscribe to or buy or anything like that? And so that kind of got me back on that sort of train a little bit, thinking about different things I could do. So that's when I came up with a couple videos. I got like 15 more video ideas that I'm going to do, including the Flash, of course. I'm going to make one for him. So making some more videos, but also my girlfriend and I started talking about one idea that we had for quite a while was making like ebooks out of it. So maybe like a kid's ebook, but also one for adults as well. Sort of how you can utilize this theme in that self-help sort of way. So there's a couple ideas there too that are kind of on the back burner that we're going to hopefully start getting into and starting to build a little bit as well. And and I'm just starting to get her into Dreams recently too. She's expressed some interest, and so we were actually playing last night Acert's tower defense game. I think it's like Predators versus Produce, and I love
Yeah.
the tower defense genre. And like Pixel Junk Monsters is like my favorite game. So we were like, hey, maybe we'll make our own tower defense game, and that will be my way to help start getting her to learn Dreams a little bit too. So maybe
Love
something
it.
like that might happen in the future too. I don't know. So but otherwise just kind of continuing to I've been working part-time with a trauma organization here in Toronto as well, and just kind of continuing to apply to different opportunities in my field of that workplace wellness sort of thing too. So sort of continuing to just kind of continue learning in that field and attend different webinars and that kind of thing too. So just some of those different things cooking in the background a little bit too, I guess.
Well, later on in this show, I'm going to bring up something that I think you'll be interested in talking
okay.
about that point. But yeah. So I guess I guess I'll leave it over to. Oh, I did want to say something about Flashpoint.
Go for it.
Flashpoint is like the greatest creation of DC because they literally can't stop being so convoluted that they have to pull it out like every 2 years. Like they just can't stop. I made a whole video about it with regards to the DCEU and the fact that I've been calling it for years. I'm like, yo, when they finally make the Flash movie, it's gonna be Flashpoint because they're gonna have to redo a lot of this stuff, and it's always their MacGuffin. Whenever anything
Yeah,
needs to
for
make
sure.
sense, Flashpoint. That's
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Anyway, James, I'll sit back now and let you go.
Okay, look, I know this is a moment for you, so it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's fine. What would you say is the most hardest aspect for you to learn when starting with Dreams? Would it be sculpting, animating, logic? Like, what was the main thing that you found difficult, and which one was the thing that you found the easiest?
Sculpting was the most difficult for sure. I know, Mighty, I've been listening to you lately, how you're talking about how your challenge is to try to use more community assets in some of your creations, right? And for me, it was like the opposite. Like when I first started working on the Flash project, it was like everything was community assets. Pretty much, like especially when it comes to scenery, it's like
Yeah.
buildings, like everything. I'll pull all that in because I did not really have sculpting skills at all, and that's still something that's like a bit challenging to me when people ask me to make like new skins and stuff like that. I'm like, I can't. I don't have that. I don't have that ability. Um, so that's still the most challenging thing to me. But I am starting to get more into that now. Like some of the scenes that I've been building in the game lately. I started making a bank scene for the Captain Cold sort of mission that I'm working as a coming soon sort of thing. So I started, I built most of that interior, and I'm working on a version of Star Labs right now. So I'm starting to get into building. It's like the opposite of Mighty Vicious, where it's my challenge is sculpting more of my things whenever possible using less community assets. But so that's still the biggest challenge for me, though. In terms of what's easiest, probably the logic came easiest to me, I think. My animation still is not great. Fortunately, that's one of the good things about the Flash. He moves so fast, it kind of hides like some pretty choppy
Yeah.
animation sometimes. But
It's all by design. All by
yeah,
design.
yeah, I think logic probably became the easiest for, whatever reason. Like just I love that concept of like, okay, I understand what these different tools do, and I understand what I want to build. So how can I use those tools to create that concept? And
Mm.
for whatever reason, I think that's kind of come the easiest to me. Although there's still a lot of room for growth and improvement. There's still some tools in there that I don't know how to use. But that's probably the thing that's come the easiest, and I think that's helped me grow the game the most, because that's most of what I've been creating myself. Is like I started with um, the Flash model by the Red Prophet, and the game wouldn't be possible without him. He's done a bunch of sculpting and creating in Dreams, so I'm really thankful for him for that model. So I just started with the puppet that he already made, and then I started using the logic and the programming to give him the different abilities and stuff. So that's kind of where the creativity started for me, and I think that's just kind of what's come the easiest to me. That's I've continued to grow from, and I think that allows me to create some of these like unique mechanics and try to figure out how to optimize them, that sort of thing.
Wow. And how long have you been doing this for in total, like this Flash project? How long has it been from start to now?
Pretty much like since the start of the pandemic. Like maybe I started like a bit after that, like a couple months after the pandemic. But I probably, so like the biggest growth in it was like the first few months, maybe because I had the most time. And then there was a period of a few months where I didn't really work on it much at all. And now recently in the last few months again, I've started getting back into it a little bit more regularly, and just kind of, yeah, building that. And it's just kind of like blows me away how much I've been able to create in it. I never imagined I
Yeah.
could have created anything like this, and it's still like, regardless of like how much further I take it, I've already like way surpassed what I ever thought was
Yeah.
possible to create, which I owe to Dreams. I think it's been really, user friendly to try to pick up and learn, and also just the community as well. Not just the community assets, but how helpful people are when you have things that you don't know how to do. People have been really helpful, like especially some of the different abilities. Like they were inspired by creations that other people have done or tutorials that other people have done, and I just kind of adapt it to my character, and try to figure out how to integrate some of their ideas into what I'm doing. So that's been the best part of it. But yeah, it's been a challenge too. But I love it.
It's just amazing, like, for someone like yourself that, clearly has never had any experience in game development before, no art skills or anything to speak of, to be able to just pick up Dreams and over the course of the pandemic when there's nothing to do, to be able to create a fully working game with tons of mechanics. And, these things are not simple mechanics either we're talking
Mhm.
about. This is difficult, challenging
Yeah,
stuff, especially with the particular project that you've chosen, with speed alone, is such a
yeah.
hurdle to come across. So the fact that you've been able to pull this off with no prior skill, just purely out of love for the project alone, is a testament to both your admiration and skill for the project and for Dreams. It's just incredible that this is possible. I
Thank
love it.
you.
I love to see it.
I love. thank you. I really appreciate that, and I still have that like imposter syndrome sometimes, where I feel like I'm not at the same level as other dreamers. So I'm always like a little bit, especially like if people see my logic and stuff, they're gonna be like, "Oh, what is this guy doing? Like, what is this technique that he's trying to use here, or whatever?" It's not the best, but
I
that's what I hope. I think like one of the comments that I've had on YouTube is somebody telling me that he was inspired by what I've created, and that's inspired them to try to start creating their own game too. And so like hearing stuff like that makes it really like satisfying as well to hear that, and I think that's the part of it that's relatable for people. And I think that's what was inspiring about Elka too, is him not really having a lot of that experience before he started too.
Mm.
So that kind of made it seem more accessible for me. So I'm hoping that mine can have a similar impact for people who may not even be interested in the superhero stuff but want to create something else. Hopefully it opens some doors where people will feel like they can do it a little bit more. But I also think it's also like important, just stay patient with it. Like the first little bit, just play around. Like don't really start trying to build something big right away. Just play around. That's for me, it was what I was doing, was just building these small little scenes. Like the first thing I built was just like a random like park with like some superheroes in it running around and stuff like that. It was just like start small and kind of immerse yourself in the tutorials and stuff like that. Just try to learn how things work, and then you can keep growing it from there. Once you get your hands dirty with it, you can start seeing how
Mm.
things work, and then your ideas start to build from there. Once you start to figure out how to do some things, you're like, oh, maybe then I can do this, or maybe I can build that. Um, so I think that if people can get past that initial period where things just seem really overwhelming at the start, then I think that Dreams really offers that opportunity to create some great stuff.
How did you find the tutorials? Because, I find we talk to a lot of people about dreams, and it seems to be a pretty much a mixed bag. Like, some people love the hand-holding style of the tutorials where you've got, the voiceover and everything, and build a bridge, wow, you did that, congratulations, moving on to the next phase. Like, did you find them intuitive, or did you sort of not like them? Because everybody has a different opinion on the dreams tutorials, and how they
Yeah,
actually get you
for,
started with everything.
yeah, for me, like I did a couple of them. I didn't do all of them. Like I think that for me, it was probably more like the community tutorials that have been useful for me. Like just searching things on YouTube and like finding certain people like Acert and um, Saku's Mind, and like different creators like that. And even watching Alka a lot, I learned a lot from watching him too. And he's made so much of his creating like available for people in the public to see on Twitch and YouTube and that kind of thing too. So I learned a lot just from watching other dreamers who are creating, or sometimes they're building their own tutorials and that sort of thing too. So honestly, it's probably more from the community that I learned, especially towards what I'm looking for, because usually it's like learning. It's more about learning, not so much like how to cross a bridge or make a bridge lift up or whatever. It's like, what does each tool do, and how does that tool work, or like
Yeah.
how do you create certain gameplay mechanics? I know that they've expanded these tutorials in Dreams recently too, and I still haven't even really checked them out. But there's so much good stuff on like YouTube and just in the community, or even like on Reddit or Twitter. There's people that are really helpful. Like if you have a question, that are really good at providing explanations and that kind of stuff too. So I find that I probably got a lot more from that.
Yeah. I mean, the community is literally like the pillar of Dreams, really, isn't it? I mean, without this community of being the way that it is, I don't think Dreams wouldn't work at all. We're very fortunate to have such a open-minded, welcoming group of people that just want to help everybody else out. So, yeah, it's nice.
Absolutely.
Is
Will,
it
do you want
time?
to do you want
Is
do you
it
want to
is it
do you want to
time?
jump back? Come on, you jump back in. Come on, come
All
on.
right. All right. All right. All right. Let me ask you. Who's the best Flash?
Oh.
Like actor, or like
Oh no. Like
or what are we
like
talking about?
throughout all iterations, just like the best Flash, because there's been a bunch of Flashes in the history of the comics, and
Yeah,
they've even dealt with it a lot on the show, which
yeah.
and just I was just saying, like, you really tied in. I feel like you're gonna say Barry because of how much you've explained already.
Yeah,
Like it tied into the stuff with you. Um, but
yeah.
what
Okay.
but yeah, like, would you say Barry?
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. No, but like I'll say that prefacing that I don't have a lot of like there's still a lot of Flash media that I haven't gone deep into. Like, you know, a lot of the comics, I've read some comics, but not a ton of them, and even some of the animated shows and stuff like that. So I don't have the full exposure of all the different versions of the Flash. So I'm not gonna say he is the best, but for me, yeah, he's like when I think of the Flash, it's Grant Gustin's Barry is, you know, my top version of the Flash, I would say. Just I think that I love what he brings to the character, and I know that he's very different than a lot of other, you know, Barry Allens that we've seen in the comics, or he's a different type. Like, you know, in the comics, he's maybe like really muscular and like a lot more of the typical sort of superhero. Although Grant Gustin's bulked up quite a bit in the last year or so, but you know, for me, like that's my version of the Flash. Is yeah, that's my favorite right now. But
Okay.
I'm not
I
going to say
mean,
he's the best. Though.
I think it
He's the
would
best
be.
for me.
Yeah, I think it would be everybody's right now, but about I would say about 12 years ago, when they really brought back in Barry Allen, they kind of took Wally West like they took his personality and put it into Barry.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty much like overall, like everyone kind of agreed that like Wally West was the best. But now that there's like these new iterations of Wally West and like Barry is Wally West now, basically, yeah, it's just kind of
Yeah.
wild. But
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, for me, I would say probably Justice League Unlimited is probably my I would say the best showing of the Flash so far. You know, but you always got to go back to like the 90s show with John Wesley Shipp, and like, you know, them working through basically trying to do the Flash's abilities. But yeah. So Falcon Rich is asking me to define best. I would just say the best would be like, which character would it be that you found the best experience with? Like that you enjoyed reading about, watching, you know, drawing the best? Like which one stood out to you the most? And so it's become harder for me personally because like I said, now Barry is kind of Wally. So so it's like a mix up for me. But um are you excited? Are you excited about the show, the new movie coming out though? You excited about the
Honestly,
new
I'm
movie?
lukewarm on it. I'm not like super anticipating it. I still don't have that trust level with the DCU EU yet. But
Nor should
I'm
you.
looking forward to it.
No,
But
no.
you know, I feel a little bit weird about the whole Flash situation with it too, because there was that thing that came out with Ezra Miller where he had like the abuse like thing where there was like a video online of him, you know, that was not too kind, and it just seemed like it was kind of swept under the rug too. So it was like something where it's like that was weird. Like I don't really understand what's going on there. Um, you know, so that's also kind of like it seems like he's kind of in limbo, and we don't really know what DC's plans are with the character. It seems like they're more using him for as kind of like their device to like set up the rest of the world the way that they want. So like I don't even know if they really have plans for the Flash within that, or if they're just going to use his movie for other people either.
And it's so
So
sad.
I don't know, but I hope that you know Grant Gustin might show up in that movie. That'd be pretty cool because they had that cameo on the Flash 4 where they had Ezra Miller show up. So that'd be
Yeah.
pretty cool. I'm more just curious. I think more than anything, like I'm curious to see what they do with it. Like I think the multiverse and that concept is really cool, and there's a lot of opportunity for different like Easter eggs and different like sort of things that they could throw in there. So I'm just kind of interested to see what they do with it. But even in the the Justice League movie and stuff like that too, like the Flash in that movie, like I don't know, it was okay. It was a little bit weird to me. Like something with it didn't totally click with me. It's like, oh yeah, that's the Flash. Like I don't know. So I'm lukewarm on it. I'll watch it, but
Oh yeah, I'll watch it no matter what.
yeah.
That's my game. But yeah, I mean, I feel you on that. It's like you can't really trust anything just yet from DC. Like you kind of have to inch it in, like just inch into the room and be like, "Are we good? Are we good here?"
Yeah.
Like, you know. So I completely get that. I I don't mind Ezra's version of the Flash. I do like that during that cameo you were talking about in the television series where they finally gave him a name. Like
Yeah.
he was like the Flash, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I like that, but like for now, there's nothing like that movie is going to basically dictate what the rest of the DCEU is like after it comes out.
Mhm.
So I mean, you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is. So
That was a pretty cool moment too, because it didn't like usually you hear about those kind of things ahead of time, and somehow they managed to keep that a secret. Like I don't know if it was just me, but yeah, I didn't know that was coming either. So that was pretty cool. There's not a lot of surprises in the superhero world anymore, so that was pretty cool.
So let me go ahead and switch this back over because we had someone in chat who was like, "Which one is the guess? Who's going on?" So there, we'll get our name tags back, and there we go.
There we go. That's better.
So yeah, so I don't know. It's with life getting in the way. It is hard to continue like developing for certain things because the biggest thing about dreams and really as with any endeavor, it takes time. And the amount of time when coming in fresh, not like, I mean, some people that are in the dreams community had these, like they had the skills before they got here. And and so like they knew what they were doing, and therefore they like jumped out the gate with some crazy stuff that everybody's like, crap. You know, because some people have that reaction where it's just like, I'll never be as good as that, and then it just shuts them down. But like, you know, but it does show with guests like you and a few others that we've had that like you can enter into dreams, and really, if you like put the time, don't treat it like a race. But if you put the time towards it, you can do some really incredible stuff. And so I personally just want to say it's amazing that you came in blank and was able to put in the time necessary because of the pandemic and other things to really just knock this out. It's fantastic.
Not only just like to put the time in, but to really pull it off, like in a really, really good way. Like you've nailed it. Like you've literally nailed it. It's perfect the way that you've done it, and that's so difficult to do sometimes. Like it's so underrated, just getting something perfect. So yeah, you've done an absolutely brilliant job, and you should be very proud of yourself and continue going with it. And you know, if you do, you're gonna end up creating some crazy stuff.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's taken a lot of work for sure. And that's the other thing with dreams too, is like sometimes you find like bugs that you didn't even know were there until like a few updates later, and you're just like, oh, where did that come from? It's like I gotta redo all this stuff now. And it's like there's some parts of the stuff that I've created that were like more in the early versions of when I was creating that aren't up to the same level of polish yet. But it's like you gotta go through and update things with the different versions of the characters and stuff like that. So that's a tricky thing to navigate too. But you know, I know it's not perfect either. I know that there's still some buggy things in it and everything like that too. But I'm pretty content with that because as long as you know people want to see different things implemented, and I'm really excited about some of the different things that I can create still. So I'd rather you know just kind of keep building and creating, even if it's not going to necessarily be perfect all the time. That's okay too because it's you know one person
Yeah.
doing this as a hobby, so I know you know nobody really expects that. But I do take pride just in general with my work. You know, I sort of have that certain level of expectation of quality that I hold for myself, and it's hard to kind of stop until you get to something that you're pretty happy with. So I think that that's you know helped along the way for sure.
I think we have to remember as well that dreams has to be like this love-hate relationship. I think all three of us here at least can agree that, you know, we've had our ups and downs with dreams, but ultimately we remember the end goal is to just have fun creating stuff. And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Just don't worry about the bad times.
Yeah,
They will go eventually. You just got to
yeah,
get over that hurdle and it'll be fine.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's I was having a conversation with someone and someone on Reddit because I just started really like commenting with people on Reddit, and because Twitter's just infinitely better in my opinion. It's just
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. I don't
but
do Reddit.
Yeah, and so I was talking with someone because they had the same data corruption issue I had. And
Mm,
Oh.
they were like, "What do I do?" And so
mm,
being that I've been through the process, I was like, "This is what you
Mm.
got to do." And and then
Step
somebody
by
else, yeah,
step.
step by step, I know exactly
yeah,
what
yeah.
the game is. So, um,
I've been through
uh,
that too. That's a scary thing.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. See, and I'm not gonna get into it.
Nope.
I'm just gonna leave that
For like
alone.
the 600th time on the Maiden Dreams podcast, we talk
Yeah,
about Mighty Vicious data corruption.
as PTSD. When do
Yeah.
it's like, but but yeah, I was talking with someone and they were really going off about monetization. And
Mm,
they were like, they're gonna have to monetize, like they have to. And I'm like, it kind of dawned on me. Yeah, we want it, but they don't have to do a damn thing.
Oh.
Like I mean, it would be cool, mind you. It would be really great when it comes, but like it it really dawned on me that like what they promised has been delivered in spades.
Mm.
Like what this is, like what Dreams is, as we've said many times, a miracle, because the fact that you could do it on a console, period, or that whatever it looked like trying to program that,
Yeah.
like trying to actually
Have
build
have
Dreams.
you seen the videos of them trying like building Dreams? Because
Y-
like I've been watching
yeah.
them recently these last couple of weeks. Like I managed to get some links from some very helpful people in the Discord channels, and like they sent me some videos of them actually like coding it side by side. So they had a live version of Dreams running next to the code, and so then they're showing like all of these different philosophers theories of how like equations work and stuff, and they're like copying and pasting these equations into the live code that then reflects what happens in the engine. It's just like it's absolutely crazy like that they actually managed to finish this thing and put it on a console. Like when you really watch how they've built it and how it works and the way that they've done it is just absolutely mind bending. Like I have no idea how they've managed to group together and actually make this thing physical. It's insane. They're really
Yeah.
worth a watch if you haven't seen these videos.
So it's like I definitely understand the push for like monetization, and people want, like, after you've put in so many hours, like, yeah, well, let me put it this way. Most people are like, I've put so many hours into it, I'd like to monetize. And I'm like, I do get it, and I know this is very unpopular for me to be saying right now. So, but y'all know I don't shy away from it because it's just my thoughts. Like, I might come back next week and be like, "Hey, guys, I was full of it last week. I'm completely out of my mind." But like, I had a friend who uh played Gears of War 2. And after, like, when we were about to get to Gears of War 3, or no, 4, because he skipped 3, I was like, he was still playing 2. And I was like, "Yo, do they track how many games you've played?" And this man had played like 2 million games of,
What?
of multiplayer for Gears 2. It was the most
Wow.
insane number I have ever seen. And believe me, guys,
2 million?
he's not technically savvy enough to tamper with anything. Okay, but he just loves
Two
competitive.
million.
It would. I swear the number on that screen was 2 million. I looked at it, looked at him, and then looked back at the.
Two, 2 million.
I'm like, how in the hell did you do that? But see, but this is the thing. He had put all that time into the game, but at no point in his mind was he was like, "Yo, I should monetize this." It was just enjoyment, which is what it was, which is honestly what Dreams was advertised as. So I'm not out here saying that I don't think Dreams should be monetized, but it really kind of put in perspective, because I didn't think about it until right when I was talking with this person on Reddit, that like, yeah, it would be cool. And as I've told y'all before, they're they're working on it. I'm pretty sure, because everything that we've said we want, they've come back and said we're working on it. or they've given it to us already, or they've improved the game in another way to make the original like issue not an issue. Like they're awesome. So like, but the idea of it having to be monetized, because it would only be gaming. You can monetize everything else from it already.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing
I,
holding you back. There's people with albums. There's people with concept art that they've been paid for. Like there's people out here making money. It's just games, and for them to be left out is kind of weird. How it's like weird, wrong, because it's like it's a game console. It's it's a creation engine on a game. I get it. I get the frustrations. I'm just saying, like, I just
I
really
don't know. I can see where people like that on Reddit, why they would say that though. Like, because obviously Dreams is a live service. It's taking up server space, and it's required to be online to be able to see and play everybody else's creations, which in turn means that there is a server somewhere that someone's got to maintain and keep efficient and upgrading it when they need more memory and stuff, with the more stuff that goes onto it. So obviously monetization is the initial way to go in order to rectify that issue, to keep that longevity going. So I can see why people would say that it has to happen in order for Dreams to continue going, because it's a live game. And a game as a service is obviously, it's just the way to go.
Okay. First of all, don't you ever refer to Dreams as a games as service game. That's just not gonna happen, bro. Like, I'm not gonna stand here and let you dirty the name of Dreams like that.
No.
Don't you come at me like that.
When I say game as a service,
Oh
I
yeah,
mean in the
backpedal, bro. Backpedal real hard. I can hear this. I can hear the playing card in your
Well, no,
spokes.
I mean, come on.
Let's
There's got to be some type of, there's got to be some type of payment involved with this.
see. That's the thing.
Licensing fees and everything to publish and stuff. There's got to be something.
Look, I'm just saying, I definitely think that there is going to be a way to a path towards monetization. But when all I'm saying is, like, the realization is it doesn't have to be. Like that's all I'm saying. It's like
yeah, I know what you're saying.
Could there be? Should there be? Will there be? Oh, hey, you got me. If they do it. I have no arguments. But it's the idea that I've been hearing of there has to be, and that's the part where I'm just like, I don't know. Like I can no longer say, since having that thought and tying it back to people who play games all the time. People fall in love with games all the time and get obsessed. How many hours have been put into what is that dumb Nintendo game? Horizon, what is it? Animal something.
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing. All right. I've never heard anyone from that community been like. I've never heard anyone from that community be like, I done picked up so many carrots and talked to so many rabbits. I think I should get paid for this. Like,
do not get me started on Animal Crossing. My wife
I'm just trying to. I'm being in fuego right now.
My wife has put over 650 hours into that game. 650 hours into Animal Crossing. It literally has no gameplay. There is nothing. I don't understand what people find so exciting about Animal Crossing, because there is zero gameplay. There is nothing. It's decorate a house, talk to a villager. I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
I don't get it. And I know I just said it's stupid, but
it is.
But people enjoy what they enjoy. So I'm not really trying to go that route. I'm not really trying to be like, it's dumb. It's just my only real point is that, it made me look at how many other games where it's just like, now there is a difference because there's creation involved and there's personalized creation involved. So like I said, if there was ever a thing where it was just like, no, we need it. Like that's the bottom line. Hey, you got my vote. It's not like I don't want to do something or work in something where there's a pathway to financial gain. Like, that's cool. It'd probably still be for fun for me until other things, because it's just not the medium I'm actually like trained in. I'm training myself in it now. So it's like, I get it. It's just the idea of it has to be. That's all I'm saying. is the has to be mentality, which usually only comes from a lot of the more volatile people that match my volatility within the community. Most people are like, I can wait. It'll be good, but I can wait. I feel like they could be working on it. Then other people are like, it's a crap game because I can't make $50 off of my game. Like, it's insane. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
I think it would depend on like how you would implement that too, like the way that you would monetize, because then it could also create copyright issues too if you're like monetizing on things like.
There's
I mean,
so
with
many things.
mine too, right? If I was making money from it, then that puts me in a more murky legal playground as well with the creators and everything too. So there's it's all about how that would be executed, I think.
Oh yeah, and we've talked about it before. As far as execution, that's the thing I think is the hardest part. Like, if it's like once you put money into it, you inevitably put litigation into it, and the only way to go against that, like, you don't want to be Roblox where you're like you get the the notion of, or you're basically taking advantage of children, and you don't want dreams to turn into like an Unreal Marketplace where it's just like everything's fractured. The whole idea of creating things together, it's still there, but it's a little more shut down for people who are just coming in. Like, it's hard. And so, like, that's why I'm always like, be patient. But now my patient thing has moved into a, like, yeah, I think they're going to do it, but I also think people need to, kind of calm down. just for now. Just
like
for
chill.
now. Just chill out. Just a bit.
Yeah.
They got a lot to work out. You don't have to talk to Sony and their lawyers. So that's probably going to take a while.
You just continue on making your game, make it as perfect as can be, and then when it eventually does or does not drop, you'll be ready. That's it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was just the thought I had, but I do want to get onto this this announcement that I think would be interesting for everybody that is here for the podcast, and who is also in our Discord. So I've had a meeting with Andy Robertson, for who, if people don't know, works for or has written for Forbes, Tech, BBC, and The Guardian. And he just wrote a book called Taming Gaming, which is dealing with basically how parents and families interact with games. And like I said, I bring them up to basically say that in our Discord right now, you're going to see a new tab for family dreams, or dreams with the family. I can't even remember what I named it because I was doing so much stuff, but you'll see it. It's like the third thing there. And
it's family dreams.
Yeah, good. Thank you. I would like for everyone, like, who wants to, in that frequents our podcast, or basically deals with our Discord at all, to find at least one full game, not a demo, but a full game on Dreams, or multiple if you have multiple.
That's family oriented.
Is this my announcement or is it your announcement? No, I'm just. Anyway,
I'm sorry.
I was gonna get to it. But yeah, drop your link for drop a link for a game that it can be family oriented, but it can also not be family oriented. It can be things where you simply just like the game. It doesn't have to be the best looking game ever made. Just something that you think is fun. And it's because if you haven't, he's going to be on the podcast in a few weeks. We're having to do some scheduling gymnastics for this one. But basically, it's just for a good cause of, the book and the website. The website I can post in the chat, but just kind of taking away the stigma of gaming for children and parents, and kind of getting more of a level-minded look back at gaming for just the world. But also, it helps dreams get out there, because I know one of the things we're going to be talking about with Andy is the whole the thing I've been ranting on and on about for like the last couple of weeks, with like how there must be an embargo on sharing dreams from these like huge like gaming journalists or gaming news companies. But we'll be going into that later. But this is also something that made me think about your workshops, Kev, because like I think it would be interesting if you got in contact with him, because I think that's another venue that for something that could work with what he's doing and what he's building. So just an idea to throw out there. Just I figured I'd go ahead and do that before I got sidetracked again, which while I'm throwing out links for those that don't know or joined late, the link to at Dreams Unleashed, aka Kev, to his site is here, where you can see how he does workshops centered around. Well, do you want to give the spill again regarding the workshops?
Yeah, give us.
I feel like you should do it more, being I got your link up there.
Okay, yeah. So the superhero workshops are essentially, heroic character training. So each workshop would be a different heroic characteristic. So you've got resilience and mindfulness and fear training, and some other ones that I've been working on as well. And essentially, each workshop just kind of uses the superhero, genre to explore those character traits and those topics, so that we're looking at examples that we've seen in movies and shows and other pop culture media, and exploring how they connect to those characteristics, why they're important for superheroes, and how they relate to our lives. And then so really it's an opportunity for people to engage with wellness in a different way, but also have a platform to be able to nerd out a little bit and talk about, even whether you're someone who's really into the genre or somebody who's never really gotten into it or been exposed to it. I make them pretty beginner friendly, so it's just a different way to look at wellness. And I think the benefit of it is, I mean, essentially all the workshops have the premise of we are the hero of our own stories, and so kind of destigmatizing mental and emotional health a little bit, where it's a lot of times we see ourselves as flawed or broken or whatever if we have mental health challenges. But when we see ourselves as kind of on a hero's journey and the hero of our own story, where we compare ourselves with these other superheroes that have been through depression and anxiety and trauma and all these kind of things, and that's part of their journey, is learning to overcome those things. So it's kind of the same way with us. If we can see ourselves as sort of on that journey of being able to overcome things instead of seeing ourselves as flawed or broken or whatever, then it helps to empower us to find better futures for ourselves. So that's kind of what the workshops are all about. And usually there's there are evidence-based practices that are in it for ways that we can cultivate those heroic characteristics, but there'll usually be an exercise as well that's got a bit of a superhero spin to it. So that's just a different way to engage with like the self-help and that kind of thing that I try to get creative and have some fun with and nerd out a little bit with.
Fantastic. Now, a lot of people are asking for me to flip back to this other screen where showing your work, because some people had to show up a little bit late. So we'll go back to that. Jamie, did you want to take this time to jump in? You seem like you're itching. You seem like you're itching to talk. So I
No.
couldn't even make an announcement without you. It's like I thought you had something. I thought you really wanted to say something. I mean,
No, I'm good. No, but is there any other superheroes that you would love to create a game around in Dreams? Like, other than the Flash, is there someone else that comes to mind that hasn't had their shine yet in the light of gaming that you'd like to bring in?
You know what? Honestly, if I was to make another superhero game, I think it would probably be like an original one, something that kind of integrates some of the stuff from my workshops a little bit. So it would be more about like the character building. So it's like that leveling up system would be maybe more built around those heroic sort of character traits. So just a different way to do something unique. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but that's an idea that's been in my head for a little bit. There's some ideas of how that could look. So if there was ever a time, because I'm prepared for the possibility of the Flash project. Like there's got some, there's other copyright owners for it, so it's always possible it could get shut down or whatever. So, if that happened, I've got some other ideas of things that I could work on, but I think it's more geared towards something. I'd go with something more unique, I think, and original. And I love people who make because like I said, I still don't have those sculpting skills, so I love people that make those sort of character customizer kind of things where it's like you can kind of use their tools to help you build, your own puppets and that kind of thing. That's really cool. So hopefully, if that ever happens, there'll be some more advanced character creation options out there too that make sculpting more accessible for those of us who don't have those level of skills. But yeah, I mean, actually,
that's interesting.
yeah, I mean, before the Flash project, I was kind of doing one for Rey from Star Wars, like just as a kind of a test thing, and that was pretty fun and pretty cool too. But I found that I quickly sort of transitioned back to the Flash after because I just loved working with it. But I think I saw the Red Prophet was also doing one with Ahsoka for a bit, and I think he was just kind of playing around with that. But if I ever did dip back into a known character, maybe Ahsoka would be really cool as a Star Wars game. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have plans for another superhero. Really, there's so much out there already, and it's continually expanding. We're seeing, especially on PlayStation and stuff, there's a lot of new Marvel content coming out and stuff like that. So I'll let them take care of that.
Yeah, I mean an original idea like that where you can incorporate it with your work is a super interesting idea. Like you could actually create something that people could use at the workshops. Like you could really integrate that really well. So yeah, that's really interesting.
I will say this though is the wellness field that I'm in, we're starting with video games in general. We've seen that there's a reputation for toxic sort of work cultures in a lot of spaces where it's like overworking so hard that there's a lot of burnout. And I think that there's a bit of a shift towards that lately in the gaming sort of industry, where a lot of places are shifting more to like a 4-day work week and putting more emphasis on like work-life balance and employee wellness and that kind of stuff. So who knows, maybe there's company out there that could use a specialist like myself, or a company like Insomniac, like if they ever want to have me work on the Spider-Man game, that'd be pretty epic. So
yes.
throwing that out there, you never know.
Yeah. Hey,
you never know.
I'm open.
Really don't.
If someone wants to get in touch with me, then I'm open to working on different characters too.
So I did like that question of which character would you do, Jammy?
Me?
Mr. I'm not good enough to work on anything. What's your what character would you?
That's my answer is none, because I can't sculpt. So
No, if you really put your mind to it and you could make you could make one, which character would you choose?
see, I would like to make a game on a villain. I think like doing the whole backstory of the villain would be pretty cool. I think a Riddler game would be really good. I would love to try and tackle that. That would be pretty sweet, because I think games that focus as you play as the villain, I find those super interesting. I just like how it flips the script. It's always good versus evil, and playing as the bad guy, like I like that. So I'd probably do one about a villain, and I do love the Riddler, so it'd probably be the Riddler.
I like that.
You're so disappointed, aren't you, Will?
No, no, because whenever I hear the Riddler, this is another funny thing. Like, did you ever see? Well, basically, when I was thinking of like how would I do a Batman script, and I told my friends, I was like, well, what I would do is I would take like the Riddler and turn him more into a character like the number 23, like Jim Carrey, like the noir film. But then I'd make him like interact with people, or I'd make Batman have to interact with him through Saw-like puzzles to save people's lives. So it's like Batman has to save someone from getting like their jaw ripped off, or it's like these contraptions that are really dark. And then I just and I did a sketch for it at some point and showed it to someone, And once again, I know y'all gonna think I'm full of shit. But once again, the only shot you've gotten of the Riddler in the new Batman is literally my drawing. It's something I have stories like this through my entire life. And it's just, I've gotten to the point where I can laugh. I used to get mad, but it's just, whether it's this, young, like, so like world mind or whatever's happening, like it's actually hilarious. It's happened too many times. But yeah, the Riddler is fantastic. I've always liked the idea of stories that aren't told from the perspective of the superheroes. Like I've always liked the idea of things like if you're familiar with the comics, Marvel had a series done by Alex Ross called Marvels, and it was just literally about this dude who was a photographer who like was basically his life of taking photos of superheroes and the connection that he had with them through it. And it's a really beautiful story, dealing with like on the outside and being like a journalist who's like seeing when Gwen Stacy snapped her neck, and like how people started treating Spider-Man after he's taken all these photos of Spider-Man doing so much for people and like saving people's cats and all this other stuff, and just like how disheartened he got with humanity because of this shift, like being a person in the middle. I love stuff like that. Yeah, I've also wondered what it'd be like to be a friggin' henchman when you're if you got Batman in a room somewhere and you don't know where the hell he is. It's like how terrifying must this all be to like the dude who literally is just like making $100 on a score just there to be some extra muscle, and you have some psychopath like you're with a psychopath, but then you got another psychopath that's in the room, and you're just trapped in between this war, and you're like, dude, I still got to get up on Tuesday and go into the office, like, like, and it's like, so like I find a lot of stuff interesting in that sense, which is why a lot of the things, as I've already told you, like my thing would probably be the question, because especially now in given the world we live in, it 2009 Watchmen was dope. I don't care what anyone says. But I like the idea, one, it's like an extreme. For those who don't know the question, it's basically he's a detective who believes in conspiracy theory, but he doesn't, notice I said theory. He doesn't believe that there's multiple conspiracies. He believes that there's just one, and all the others tie into it. So like even amongst other superheroes, they're like, get this weirdo away from me. and it's like that. That just the idea of that is like, and then you look at the fact that like through certain iterations, like he was like basically like a news anchor, like he was a talking head on TV, and you have the idea of like this. I don't I only say this just because it reminds me the most of Sidney Lumet's Network. If nobody's seen that, if you haven't seen that movie, you need to see it. Like it's just, it was prophetic. It basically told us the world we're living in right now, but it's close to that. But it's like, what if you had someone, and I'm not saying this person specifically, okay? Don't get mad at me. But it's like if Tucker Carlson became so irate about what he thought was wrong that he literally put on a suit and tried to be a superhero. Like that, like that's that. I mean, I can think of no better canvas to tell like this awesome story. So I would say if I don't think it'd work for a game. It would have to be a movie. So let me see. If I had to make a game. Bowtie Man, exactly.
Bowtie Man.
Exactly. Because most people don't know that the question is actually how Rorschach got designed. Like Rorschach from The Watchmen is what they did as a twist on when DC got the rights to the question. That's why they're basically the same. The only difference is that he doesn't have the Rorschach mask. He just has a blank face. Like it's just blank. It's creepy, but it's awesome. Anyway, if I had to do a game, I don't have to do it because you're doing it. It's the Flash. That's
You
probably
just said you can watch.
Yeah. Like, I mean, literally everything that you've done. That's why you just see me popping up in your comments every now and again on Twitter. This is because, like, this really is like what I would do because I've always, like I said, I even had my own ideas as far as how, like, the speed would work. Like, I would love, like, what I would love to do, you're doing it. So,
All right. Well, if you
congrats.
ever want to get involved with it, like there's always collab opportunities that I'm open to as well. So if you ever want to get some stuff in there, then we'll talk.
Indeed. Jump rope. Let's see. Basket snake, jump rope man. He's super fast, but is only moving in place. And I feel like if DC named him, he'd be called like Skip to Maloo or some shit. It's DC. I love him. I love all. I'm not a DC versus Marvel person. I'm not. My mind doesn't work on that competitive nature thing that most people use to drive themselves. Like, I just want to be entertained. Like, that's like, can you give me a moment where I can just be entertained? That's all I look for. But like when it comes to that, it's like DC, like I said, with the EU, it gets a little wild because it's just like, guys, it's harder for them though. Let me just start out by saying that. It's harder for them because their heroes are literally the Greek pantheon. Like you can't like it's not like Spider-Man where, people align themselves with how much he suffers. Like how hard his life is even as a hero. Like that's why he's so popular. That's why, like, for the most part, Batman. That's why Batman is really popular because he's not a god, unlike every other character that's in the DC universe basically.
Yeah.
Like their Justice League. But oh, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, you're making my game. You're making my game. You're making your game, but it's the game I want to make also. So it's just kind of like you seem to have to have had the time. I really like the rigging you've done for him as well, which of course made me go, you sure you don't want to make that little short film, bro? You sure you don't want to? You sure you don't want to? I see you doing some rigging over
Maybe.
there. But yeah. So I mean, as far as today's show, I'm tapped.
Mm.
I don't want to turn it into the Talk About Movies podcast. So,
No.
like, I can go talk to myself about that. And because my wife will just, take the blows. She'll just
she's
kind of
a
sit there and be
soldier.
like, uh-huh, yeah.
Yep.
Don't you have someone else? No, I don't. It's
No, it's you. That's why we're
Yeah.
married.
Yep. You signed the contract. So I would say keep up the great work. I can't wait to see what more you're able to do with it. I know, like, it's not a race. So
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah, you have other things going on that are very important. But when you do get back to it and can, dedicate more time to it and everything, hey, keep doing the great work because you are doing great work.
Mm.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, and I'm still continuing to work at it. The Captain Cold, boss shouldn't be too far away, so that's going to be coming out soon, and got some other fun ideas that I'm looking forward to working on too. So
Okay,
it's,
you know what?
We keep working at it, but
we're not done.
Yeah.
We're
Oh,
not
boy.
done. I have a request, and I'm gonna bug you about it now until I see it. No, I'm gonna give you time, but I'm gonna bug you about it every now and again.
Okay.
Is Turtleman gonna be in the game?
I don't have plans for it now. He's probably on the lower end of list of
It's the
People that
great.
have a plan.
It did, bro. I'm telling you, I'm a pitch you gold. I'm a pitch you gold. If you actually turn this into a game, I'm a pitch you gold right now. Okay.
All right.
He's not actually an encounter. He's just someone through the cutscenes in the game that you see Flash run over.
Like the Cabbage Man from Avatar, or what are you talking
Yeah. Like, he's always like threatening to do something, but he never gets to do it because he literally gets run over by the Flash while he's moving to do other things, like handle bigger threats. So it could just be this random scene or random thing where it's like, stop the enemy, and it's like on the way to something. Because most people don't know Turtle Man. They tried to make him relevant in the show, actually. So if you watch the show, you've seen him. They just, like, I even think they said,
What if it's just like a dude with a green jacket? Basically, like a green puffy jacket.
I mean, you could pretty much take liberty with him, but he literally, like, in his first iteration of the Flash, like, I believe, now I'm not sure because it's been a while since I've seen the comic, but I believe he actually was like a kill by the Flash because he thought his power was that he moved really slow. And he thought that he would be the perfect counter to Flash because Flash moves super fast, he moves super slow. They counter it out. He literally got ran over. And I think he died. I'm not sure about I think he died. But this was like one of those old DC creations, and I was surprised that they even tried to do it in the show because no one else has ever mentioned Turtle Man. So I'm telling you, that's comedic gold. It's comedic gold.
Never know.
I'll give it to you.
I mean, it probably wouldn't be too hard to implement that.
Yeah.
So
maybe
never know.
Maybe not even a cutscene. Maybe it's just as you're running through the city, randomly there'll just be someone that comes into view. And you just
whoosh.
I think in the show he had like a force field around him, basically, that made everything with it slow down. So I could just program one of those. So wherever he's like walking, if you go into his little force field, it slows you down or something like that. But I don't know. I'd have to figure out useful situations for that to apply.
No, you just run him over. Like that's it. That's just it. He appears in the street. He's like, "I got you now, Flash!" And that's it. That's the whole thing. Done. Done and done. But no. But yeah. So, Jamie, did you have it? Did you have any? Give him a slow gun. Oh Lord.
Oh no! Bullet time.
Give
him a slow gun.
Shoots like turtle shells out of it. That'd be funny. Like a Mario villain.
Hey, I'd love it. I'll take it. Like I said, you can take liberty with that character because no one knows him. So you don't have anything.
You could really just make it. Yeah, you could just make him your own. You really could.
But
I would end off today with saying, if anybody feels like, especially when you're starting off with Dreams with the tutorials, that it's too overwhelming, just use Dream Unleashed as a prime example. That if you just stick with it and you just bear your time and get through the tutorials and use community tutorials and speak to the community, that there's ways to get over this and start to create amazing stuff. So just stick with it, and yeah.
Yeah, and once again, I'll go ahead and post in chat. That's where you can find him on Twitter at Dreams Unleash, and the website. Once again, if you're really interested in his workshops and the work he's talked about doing, there's a lot of pictures there. It's quite heartwarming, honestly, and yeah. Just, is there anywhere else they can find you socially?
Good question. I don't even remember all my handles. There's too many handles now. It's you can find me on Twitter though, as you posted the Dreams Unleashed, but I've also got a page for my other, sort of side with the superhero workshops. I think it's I get them mixed up now. I think it's just Unleash Hero. Let's see. Let's double check here. Yeah, it's at Unleash_hero is the other one that I got going. And you can also find me on, YouTube as well. If you just type in Unleash the Superhero Within, you'll find my other page there too, that I put some of my videos that I talked about earlier with the the Spider-Man stuff, and there's going to be more coming out there too. So you can find me there too, or even just on my website. There's links to the different social media forums too, so you could find them through there too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your experience with Dreams, your journey, and everything that you've made up to this point. And yeah, just keep going at it. And thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
My pleasure.
Fantastic. Well, everybody, again, we will be back next week. Next week is Felipe.
Felipe next week.
Yes.
And that's going to be really interesting with Media Molecule just announcing this new partnership to, push people in the gaming industry. So that's going to be quite a fun topic to talk about.
All right. Well, with that, we catch you all a little bit later. And thank you once again, Dreams Unleashed. Kev, you're a good one. You're a good one. Peace, everybody.
Thanks,
See
guys.
ya. Bye.